In case you didn't hear the news, I, Danielle Ryan, am a jealous, bitter internet hater. If you're new here, in 2018, I invested $4,500 into a business coach who told me that if I wanted to be successful in my business, all I had to do was sit and visualize what that success would look like, write about it in my journal, and it would happen. And because that didn't work, I am now dedicating my entire life to living in the shadows of my previous scorned experiences. Okay, if you can't tell, I'm only joking.
Yeah, good one.
Well, I'm not joking about spending $4,500 on a business coach who didn't really teach me anything, but we've moved past that. It was 6 years ago. However, I still have a lot to say about this topic. You see, there seems to be this narrative floating around the internet on places like Threads and Instagram and Reddit. In fact, even here on YouTube, there's this story that anyone who makes content where they are critiquing the coaching industry in particular, like myself, we must just be miserable people. We can't get over the fact that our business failed, which for the record, my business never failed. I actually figured out how to do it on my own, but that's a story for another day. Basically, the story that I'm being told is that
I find all of my joy and satisfaction and purpose in life by dragging down other people.
Yeah, you're coming with me.
And if that's how you feel about my content, you know what? You're entitled to your own opinions. But I'm going to be honest with you. This video is probably not for you if you feel that way. And I say that because if you perceive my content in this way, it's very clear to me that you either A, haven't actually taken the time to listen to what I'm saying, or B, you are just completely misinterpreting my intention here. And I tell you all of this because this leads me into what I want to talk about in this video today. Why is it that we, as humans in general, I mean, I've done this too, both inside and out of the coaching world, why is the automatic assumption anytime someone offers an opinion that maybe differs from what we believe in, questions something we do, or offers an alternative perspective to what we consider to be our belief, why is it automatically assumed that that person is either jealous or miserable or just full of hate? And who knows, maybe I am just a jealous hater internet troll. If you choose to believe that narrative, that's fine. However, if you're interested in sticking around and learning about why just because someone believes something different than you do, perhaps they don't have bad intentions, then I encourage you to do so. As always, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments down below, subscribe if you're not already, and let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so for a bit more context, I feel like anytime I make a post or a video or any kind of content that critiques the coaching industry specifically, I'm often met with dismissive remarks about how I am just envious or I'm bitter or I could benefit from hiring my own coach and so on and so on and so on. And honestly, I have been thinking about this a lot and I really just think that it's like a psychological defense mechanism. When someone is confronted with a viewpoint that is different from what they believe to be true, those individuals might experience what's called cognitive dissonance. And so if you're not familiar, cognitive dissonance is the discomfort a person feels when their behavior does not align with their values or beliefs. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person holds two contradictory beliefs at the same time. So if I'm a coach and I'm selling this $5,000 package that I've convinced myself is going to positively change someone's life, and then I see a YouTube video explaining how selling a coaching program to someone else who's going to become a coach to then sell another coaching program to someone else who's also going to become a coach doesn't really add value to society and isn't really selling anything of substance and could in fact be considered predatory and have a negative outcome for the majority of people, I, the seller of the $5,000 package, might start to feel some discomfort because this thing that I believed in wholeheartedly might not actually be true. And so, in order to alleviate some of that discomfort that I'm feeling, I might resort to labeling the criticism, the feedback that I'm hearing, as an emotional reaction versus a valid form of criticism. Because if I believe that you're only criticizing my industry because of some negative experience that you had, that sort of invalidates the argument, right? And so these accusations of jealousy or hatred serve as a means of deflecting the criticism and ultimately protecting my own ego. And so because I've convinced myself that your intention is to have an outlet for this negative experience that you've had, I don't have to do any self-reflection. I don't have to evaluate whether or not I was actually misled in my beliefs, because whatever it is that you have to say, it doesn't really matter. It's just an emotional response. And so this behavior of calling out people saying that they're just a hater, they're just jealous, whatever, allows me to avoid having to engage in potentially uncomfortable truths. And this allows me to maintain a sense of superiority, a sense of righteousness in whatever I believe to be true. And so all that to say, I think Danielle Ryan, personally, having a perspective like this, where I'm closed off and I'm not considerate of any alternative feedback, it can be incredibly dangerous and, quite frankly, just really unproductive. I think the knee-jerk reaction to automatically label things as jealousy or hate really hinders the ability to have constructive dialogue. And I believe it does this in a number of ways. First and foremost, if our automatic assumption about someone who believes something different than us is doing so because of the way they feel, it really shifts the focus from the substance of the argument, what they're actually saying, to the presumed emotions of the person who is saying the thing. So for example, when I get comments that say things like,
well, she's just saying that because she's bitter,
really discounts what I'm actually saying versus actually taking the time to try and unpack it. What am I actually saying? What evidence am I using to show that what I'm saying is true? Ultimately, those questions don't matter to someone if they're automatically assuming that the only reason I made an entire YouTube channel about this topic is because of the way I feel. And listen, I'm not saying that everything that I say on this channel is correct. It's just my opinion based on my experiences, based on the experiences of other people that I've talked to, and based on the hours of analysis that I've done deconstructing the things that are happening in this industry. But ultimately, all of that aside, at the end of the day, everything that I say here is still just my opinion. And so I think for me, the frustrating piece is the fact that the arguments that I do make and the evidence I do have to support those arguments are often diminished to my emotional state, when really the reality is my emotional state has nothing to do with the content and the evidence that I'm providing. And it's because of this that I think a lot of the opportunity for discourse online actually just results in a very hostile environment. Sort of this like us versus them mentality. Again, accusations of jealousy or of hate are very emotionally charged and can really contribute to a very confrontational atmosphere. If the thought is that I make content here on YouTube because of the way that I feel, chances are the person who's on the defensive is also going to have a lot of feelings about it. And I think it's this emotional intensity that can really escalate the conversation into a personal attack rather than a rational discussion. And I think that's what makes it so hard for me to engage with people who get offended by my content. And so this actually kind of reminds me of a time many months ago when I received a DM from a woman who I guess was featured in one of my videos. One of her clients came across my YouTube channel and then sent her the video where I was reacting to something she had said about pricing. And again, the majority of the content that I react to on this channel, I don't even know these people's names. It gets submitted to me and I just give you my honest thoughts about what I think is going on. So anyways, I included this woman in a video and then she proceeded to message me on Instagram. Now, those of you who get a lot of messages on Instagram,
like makes them so popular.
You probably know that people who you aren't mutuals with, you don't follow them, they don't follow you, they don't show up in your regular messages, they go into like a requests folder. So I guess this woman had been DMing me trying to get my attention and I wasn't responding because I don't always check my requests. And she had gone out of her way to respond to multiple stories of mine over the course of like multiple days. Again, trying to get my attention. However, her responses were incredibly emotionally charged. And you could tell this based on, the way she was writing, the exclamation points, and the frequency of her messages. So all this to say, I finally noticed this woman is messaging me. I replied to her and asked, what video are you talking about? I don't know who you are. And she goes on to say how if I knew anything about her and her business, I wouldn't have put her in the video because she believes in ethics and coaching and she calls out a lot of the problematic behavior. And when I pointed out to her the fact that I took this video in its entirety, I didn't take it out of context, it was a video she had posted to her profile, and I simply reacted at face value to what she was saying, and I didn't agree with the method that she was teaching, she suddenly started backtracking on all of her previous messages. And I think it was at that point that we kind of just agreed to disagree and moved on with our lives. I never heard from her again. And so I think the point of me telling this story is really just to demonstrate how initially her response was purely emotional. She thought I was being a hater. She thought that I was just attacking her and that there wasn't really any merit to the things that I was saying. However, through the opportunity to explain to her how I react to things based on what the people are saying directly at face value from start to finish, it started to click that perhaps the video she had posted didn't necessarily align with what her actual beliefs were. And so I don't even know if sharing that story makes any sense in the context of this video, but I like to think that her and I were able to have like a constructive discourse about why I made the video that I did and why I said what I did. And I'll give this woman credit for, being willing to hear an alternative perspective and perhaps taking some time to self-reflect and think,
maybe my content might get interpreted in a certain way that I hadn't considered yet.
That's my intention here, people. I just think that labeling differing opinions from your own as hate or as jealousy or just making an emotional assumption really impedes the free exchange of ideas. It discourages critical thinking, and ultimately it obstructs our path to constructive conversation. We can't learn from each other if we approach a conversation with all these assumptions about what the other person's intentions are. I think at the end of the day, it's important for all of us to remember that this is just the internet. Not every opinion that is different from your own is a personal attack on you as an individual. Okay, so here's one last thing I will say. I used to be a coach. I have worked with coaches. I have seen this industry from all sides. One of the reasons I am at the point that I am today, and I'm not still participating in the coaching industry, and I have this platform and I have the perspective that I do, is because I willingly participated in this kind of constructive discourse. If we continue to exist inside an echo chamber, we are never going to grow. Heck, even in reflecting for this video that you're watching right now, I would say that some of the cynicism that I used to express towards the coaching industry even maybe a year ago has even since shifted after actively talking to and engaging with people who are still in the coaching industry, still operating within ethical boundaries and guidelines, and from having an open mind and a willingness to listen to where some of my blind spots are. And I really think it is this willingness to listen without assumptions on where the other person is coming from that is so vital in our ability to engage in constructive conversation over the course of our life. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic in the comments down below. I want to thank all of my channel members, my VIPs, the billionaire tier. Thank you so much for your contributions. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Be sure to subscribe, take care, comb your hair, and let's take a minute to discuss whether or not you consistently need mentorship in order to be successful, okay? I'll see you in my next video. Bye!